9/11 here in the States,
Yeah.
y'all had your terrorist attacks. You have to be here and there, and just seeing that's anybody's mind would crack. And I know bodybuilding is one of the things that probably helped you with some of it, right?
Yes. It was really, during last year, it was such a difficult, dark time. Like, I didn't feel like myself. I couldn't have done this. There's no way. I would have been far too anxious to speak to a stranger, even from on a screen. Like, going to the supermarket on my own was overwhelming. Just popping to the post office was overwhelming. Or literally going to the gym and training was my reprieve from it. It was the structure that got me out the house. It was the goal of competing. It gave me motivation, something to work towards, something to kind of, I genuinely feel that if I didn't have bodybuilding, I wouldn't have been able to get over the acute symptoms of my PTSD so quickly, because you have that determination and that drive in you to always be better. And yeah, with bodybuilding, that's to your physical being, but it switched to my mental being, where it was like, I do not want to feel like this all the time. So it made me seek counseling, therapy. I tried all different types until I found one that worked. And I was determined not to sit in it. So I think without the structure and routine of bodybuilding, I probably would have just become a recluse and still be struggling with those symptoms now. They're still there a little bit, but I can manage the emotional reaction so much better than I could before. Like, I don't get the flashbacks as intensely or the triggers so intensely as I did. It's just like, oh, that's happened. Okay, that wasn't very nice, but let's carry on with what I'm doing. It's that you notice it, but you can let it pass you by rather than it consuming you.
Yeah, I can understand because it's tough, because the stress of doing what you had to do, and then this bodybuilding has this regimen, this consistency. It helps a lot of people. This is like the gym was their therapy, especially during the pandemic when the gyms were shut down. It was
Yeah.
tough. I know it's tough for you in the UK. It's tough for us in the States. I don't go to. I do go to. I used to go to gym a little bit, but I'm getting a little old now. I can't. My bones are they're catching up me. I got bad knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
But it's good that you found that they helped you with your, and also Dan being your corner like that. I mean, this
Yes.
is as my other guy like to say it. What doesn't make you stranger makes you stronger.
Exactly.
Oh, and Ramona, before I leave, I want to tell you something. You are beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I gotta, he has to calm down with that. I mean, I'm trying to calm him down. I have personalities too. We have a comment here from my man KL. He says, there is no such thing as friends between men and women, especially if they later become a couple. Well, it can be, but then, it can get, it can change and evolve. That's how it is.
It did, yeah. It was definitely a friendship to start off with. We lived 6 hours away from each other. But then he came down for a holiday in Devon and never left, basically.
Yeah.
Till we moved back to his place.
That's good. Now, after, like I said, we were back to after everything's kind of, we were talking about that feeling after you got your Olympia qualification. What was that like for you?
So actually on stage, I didn't really, so there was they called third, they called second, and there's still however many of us women stood on the sideline. And the woman I was stood next to was like, oh, it's you. And I'm like, nah. Shock, I think, was probably the biggest feeling I felt. Utter shock. Because even though I was in the final call out and they called Brigitte, who came second already, I still thought it could have been any one of the other women stood on the side of the stage. I didn't think it was going to be me. And then it was like, oh my God, I didn't actually think this would happen. I don't know how to respond to this. And there's some amazing photos where I'm just like with my hand over my face and sort of doing this because it blew my mind. It wasn't until Dan and I went for some food afterwards and it was just us two. And he was like, you realise you're going to the Olympia, don't you? And that was when it sunk in. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, we're going to the Olympia. Oh my God. And that was when I started to, and the excitement kind of built it little by little as it got closer, of just like this, trying to wrap my head around the fact that I'd achieved something that I never thought I would achieve. So yeah, it was amazing. It was utterly amazing. But shock was the biggest thing on the actual day. Just
Yeah,
shock.
because the Olympics is the biggest show next to, as you know, the biggest shows are right now. You have the Rising Phoenix, there's
Yeah,
the Arnold. Here's the thing about me about the Arnold is that how it pushed out most of the women's divisions. You
yeah,
know, I understand that it's the men's divisions get a lot of focus. This is how I always say like the men's division is always the bottom bitch, starts bringing the money for
yeah,
promoters and show like that. The division that gets the most attention now is wellness and bikini because excuse my French, this is what it is. They're the tits and ass division.
yeah,
But you ladies in figure and fitness is still there. I give it that credit because it's one of the second oldest divisions. But women's bodybuilding, physique, and figure, y'all ladies, you should be fairly represented just in any show. I mean, but this is just me. Like I said, I'm a fan of Arnold. You should watch his movies. I know the
yeah.
stunts and that kind of. But just his politics, when it comes down to this, I'm just not a fan of.
Yeah, it is really difficult having somebody that is so iconic. And yeah, I looked up to him during my years as growing up and that sort of thing. But it does sit very differently when it's like you hear some of the comments he makes about the bigger women's divisions, and it's like, but we're allowed to look how we want to look. You may not like it, but there are people that appreciate it. There are people that want to look like it. There are people that want to compete like it. And it's almost, I'm not sure there's any other sport where you would have a competition that would cut out the category of females because it didn't look as the person wanted it to look. I don't think that happens in any other division of sport. Yeah, there's still women's sport is still on the upcoming, but it's essentially it's a form of sexual discrimination, and I really struggle with giving that person my respect still when they don't respect the sport that or the division of the sport that I love, both women's physique, figure, and women's bodybuilding. We all of those categories deserve to be able to showcase themselves. And watching, women's physique was at the Arnold UK, and I hadn't competed on the physique stage at that point. And I just remember Anne Moan coming out, and I was just like sat front row pre-judging because you didn't have to buy a seat; you could sit wherever you wanted, and it was just amazing watching them that up close and seeing them there. Yeah, I think it's a real shame that it's not included in more Arnold classics.
Well, it's about this. He's saying it's about the money thing, but
Mm,
if you can put up an extra $200,000 for prize money for men's open, that money you could actually because set up for the prize money and also for the sanction fees for the other three divisions. But
yeah,
fair is not fair. He can still have those divisions at the amateur shows, but what those amateurs going to do? And you get, you want hey, I want to compete at the Arnold, but I can't. Well, you have the invitation for one thing, but
yeah.
what's the point? We had some comments from my man Emmanuel. He says, question for Romana: is bodybuilding an art form as much as it being a sport to you? So what's bodybuilding to you?
To me, it is an art form. Especially through posing. I've never been a dancer, but I really like the ability to express emotion to the music within poses. And my routines, I'm always very conscious of what my face is doing. And I don't want to just present a selection of poses to music. That's what your individual presentation is, really. For me, the routine is where you can actually put a bit of yourself in there and put some emotion in there and try and convey something to the audience when they're watching. And I just love that. And then it's almost like sculpture because every time you go in the gym, you're thinking about what you're trying to mold on that body part. So yeah, you've got the artistic nature of the routine, but then you've got the actual sculpting of your body of like, right, how do I need to move my body to grow that muscle to make that body part look different, look bigger, to stimulate it? And you're constantly trying to, especially when you're off season and you've got a bit more body fat, you're trying to imagine how that's going to look when you lean down. So it is like a form of sculpture to me, artistic sculpture, both
That's right.
the
Yeah, like chisel, like being like a piece of granite, and you
Yeah,
chisel all the rough edges, and just you present like you have the body of David or the body of Venus. I mean, you like I said, as a fan, I look at it as it's an art form, but also it is a sport.
yeah,
You have to train, you have to be consistent. That's the one thing about bodybuilding is that it's consistency is an important part of it. This is
yeah.
I keep saying this. People are outside the sport thinking all I gotta do is pop some pills and this and that. No, that is
Like
not how it works.
I was in the local supermarket. You guys in America actually sometimes are quite familiar where we live because it's right by an American Air Force base. So it's RAF Lakenheath and Mildenhall. Lots of our Uber drivers when we were in Atlanta knew exactly where we were, which is strange because it's a tiny little village in the east of England. But I was in our local supermarket and I had a woman came up to me and she was like, "Oh my God, how do you look like that? What do you do?" And it's like, you can't actually sum it up into a little comment to a stranger. It's like, well, I get out of bed and I eat and I train and I'm in the gym like 4 hours, maybe more if I'm in prep. I have to make sure my sleep's on point, I have to make sure my hydration's on point. There's so much to it. It's not, yeah, not just a case of taking some gear and it all happens. You have to actually work really hard, like you say, consistently, day in, day out, and it be all you do. And I
Yeah,
think I love that.
yeah. Because a friend told me, so he told me this. I got a friend. He's IB pro. He told me like, George, these guys can take the same shit I take, but if they don't follow the guidelines, don't follow the diet, don't do the exercises, don't do everything that encompasses as a bodybuilder, they're not gonna be looking as good as I do. Some guys can look like shit because they don't
Yeah.
follow those guidelines. You can't be eating fast food and taking this and that, and you don't follow a proper diet or regimen. We have here comments from a man, KL. He likes the one that says, "How long do you plan on competing?" So, what's the plan? You've done a
So
couple.
I'm going to be 39 in September. Um, and it's something me and my partner were actually talking about a couple of days ago because he's 11 years younger than me, but he's been bodybuilding since he was like 14, and he's been using gear since he was unfortunately 16. So he's been using it for a really long time. Whereas I'm my bodybuilding career has been really quite short so far. It's like 6 years, and I was natural for the first three of those. So there's still a lot I can exploit as far as my potential. I think my body will tell me when it's time to stop before anything else does. As you get older, like you're saying, you start to hurt, things start to ache. I think there will come a point where my body is just like, no, we're done now. But I've kind of got late 40s in my head as a kind of, that might be a time when I start to think about stepping back if my body lasts that long.
Yeah, I can tell you, there's mornings I get up. Like I've been working since I was, 12. Had two jobs, and I get up in the morning. My back want to ache, my knees. I'm going to be 50 in November,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, I
I
mean
wouldn't have
it's
said
just
that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it start feeling on me. I remember when I was young, I do all day. I used to work at night. I used to work day and night. One of my jobs, a night job, I used to work at a gentleman's club. So it's
Oh,
fun. But Star Wars always all peaches and cream. Sometimes if the girl's not making money, it can be a problem. We have here a comment from my man Emerald. He says this. He says, another question for Romana. What's your thoughts on men who follow and support female bodybuilding? So he's a fan. So we all know we are the schmoes. We are.
it's I I really hate people that say, "Oh, well, it's just women. I'm not interested. I don't, it's not the same as the men." So I am all for men that actually have an interest and support the sport, because without you guys, we would struggle even more. It's any any support is fully welcome. It's so nice to have people like reaching out, saying nice things, expressing an interest, wanting to know about it. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, that's good because it's good because we know guys like my man KL, he's more of a fan of the women muscle than more the sport. But yeah, it's good that you get the sport because I know dealing with society's idea what women should be like. Women supposed to be soft and feminine. You can't have big muscles. You can't be built. It's always that ideology that if you like you're trying to be manly, and you're trying to be, but this is an attractive lady. She's a redhead. I like redheads. I mean, she's just,
I put up a Instagram post on Valentine's Day of me and Dan, like you do when you're in a couple, right? And it got something like 12,000 likes, which is more than anything I've ever put up before. But some of the comments, it was just like, I'm like, why have you decided to do that? And then it got to the point where it was kind of funny. I was just like, oh, look, showing Dan, look what they've written now. But the amount of, I can deal with it online because I can put my phone away and not deal with it. But I have had not so nice comments from people face to face. Like, oh, I don't want to look like you. Oh, no, I don't want to look like a man like you. I've had somebody actually mistake me for transgender in a supermarket, come up to me and go, oh, I work with people like you. Transgender, you look fantastic. And Dan wasn't with me at the time, but he was like, if he had been, he'd be like, why do you think she's a man? Because she's got muscle. Like, look at the other men around here. They don't look like that.
Yeah.
I've been mistaken for a man on the phone quite a lot because of my voice. I understand that, but I've also been called sir when I'm looking at somebody face to face. It's like inside thoughts.
Yeah, you can call me ma'am because I got boobs. I mean, come on, but it's just that's the thing about that. Everybody has their idea what how a woman should be, how she look. You are an athlete. You compete in the sport. It's a very extreme sport, and you are focused on being the best in your sport. Folks, we're gonna do this while we have her here. We're gonna jump into our social media for a bit. We got an IG open. We're gonna look some pics and
oh my god,
yes, that's why I like doing this because most people are guys who like to be a fan. But guys, I'm going to tell you, and this is no offense to you, Romana. It's a disclaimer. I often say, guys, respect this lady. She has a big dude. No D pics. I know you saw her last competition. You see here right now.
Any of those pics, you're probably going to get one of Dan's hairy ass in return. Just saying.
I remember one time we would do the